Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. AMC Stock is down 2.63% at the time of recording this video. Not a terrible day, not a great day. We have all of the latest news that you need to know, as well as some pretty fair news. Let's just call it that. It kind of makes me laugh in the grand scope of it. The lawyers that did this court proceeding with AMC thought they were going to get paid out big time, and they still got a decent little payout, but it was 75% less than what they were initially expecting because AMC stock absolutely collapsed. So some ironic maybe justice here. I don't know what to call it. I'm sure they still made money on the deal, but the payout was very small relative to what it was going to be. So we're going to go ahead and get into everything you guys need to know. I want to give you guys a quick rundown of what I expect for tomorrow. The biggest thing to be watching with the Fed, how the markets could react from now until then, and potentially how to go about trading this. Now, if you are a trader, if you want to make money on any downside in the markets or upside, come hedge out your portfolios. Link down below in the description of this video. You can come join us, come trade with us every time I make a trade, and trust me, we are going to be hedging out here towards the end of the day for tomorrow, just because the risk reward is not very favorable. So let's go ahead and get straight into it. So first things first that I do want to acknowledge is the fact that AMC is down 2.5%. Now, you're still off of your lows at $7.05 per share, but you're still down again. This is the second day in a row now that we have been down. Besides this day right here, this was September 15th, you would have been down the last 4 days in a row. So you kind of seen that bounce off 705, and then you made your way to about $9.25 per share, and now you're back down to $7.61 per share. Now, the thing that I really have to say about AMC here is obviously we're going to be prone to whatever happens in the markets. Today's a pretty rough day across the board. S&P is down 0.64%, Nasdaq down a little bit more than that, so AMC down 2.31%, pretty in line with what you would normally expect. AMC is obviously not inversing the markets. AMC is not green today while the markets are down, so that is for sure not happening today. That could happen over the next coming days. That could happen at some point in the future, but who knows? AMC goes through these kind of periods where sometimes we inverse the markets, sometimes we follow the markets, sometimes we just epically follow the markets. If the markets sell off, AMC stock really sells off. There's no rhyme or rhythm on any given day. It's kind of, hey, what do we wake up to? How does AMC feel? What's the stock doing? That's kind of the way to look at it. Don't take anything set in stone. Now, the way that I'm personally playing AMC right now is with some longer dated options. I feel like the leverage that you get at this low price makes a lot of sense if we can see some big upside at some point. Keep in mind, the average hedge fund and institution has a price target on AMC stock of $20, right? Almost $21. So you're at $7.65 per share. Those analysts, they were not giving AMC a huge valuation. They were not giving AMC the benefit of the doubt. So you're dramatically even under the bearish analyst price targets. These analysts have sell ratings on AMC. They're very bearish. And you're still, under those price targets. Even the lowest price target AMC has of $8 per share, you're under that. So I think your risk to reward right here looks good. Okay, I think your odds of making money here are probably around 98%. And that's obviously arbitrage, because if you hold it for a day and the stock falls, you're not going to make money. I'm saying if you buy it here and hold it for the next 3 to 6 months, odds are you do make a lot of money. But the caveat there is whatever happens in the markets, if there's really good things or really bad things, that's obviously going to move AMC stock, given as well with the news. Any potential news that comes out could also affect AMC stock a lot. This court proceeding is over, so I do think any good or bad news will start to really affect AMC. Now, I want to jump straight into the Ortex data, then we're going to get into some of this funny news, ironic, poetic justice, if you will. The thing that I really want to look at first, I guess, that caught my eye is the live short interest of free float. So it says right here 27.12 million shares currently sold short. If we look at the official short interest report, last we knew, this last reported short interest was 23.21 million shares sold short. So it looks like you have dramatically increased the amount of shares that are now sold short. Even another 4 million shares from then, and that's if Ortex estimates are correct. Last jump we seen was from 17 million to 23 million, and now it looks like we're at 27 million. So the amount of shares sold short has increased like 50% within the last month or so. And even though the short interest is, 17 to 20%, right? The amount of shares sold short is at the highest level it's ever been. You've never been this short with AMC stock. The reason why the short interest looks like it has fallen recently is because the amount of shares outstanding has increased. The way I kind of look at that is it's just going to take a little bit of time, but short sellers, they're going to eat up all of those shares, and we're going to be back to, 20-30% short interest. It might just take a little bit of time for the data to actually catch up to that. So there is a possibility that we are, 20 to 30 some percent short on the free float right now, just because the way the lagged data works. So even if we were that short, we still wouldn't even know that for like another month, right? So go ahead and keep that in mind. Now, cost to borrow fees, very low, 3.66% from Interactive Brokers. Cost to borrow average, 5.09%. Cost to borrow max, 8.6%. Cost to borrow minimum, 4.33%. Again, I don't know if these numbers are correct, but given the lack of upside volatility we have really seen in AMC, it would make sense. I expected a much bigger bounce a lot sooner, right? I feel like we should have already seen that bounce, but we have not. So when a stock continues to fall, if you're lending out your shares and you're just losing money holding your shares, then you're going to take a 8% return because AMC isn't giving you an 8% return, right? So that's kind of the way you got to look at it. Once upside volatility does come into the stock, in which it will, don't be confused, it will come into the stock. Question is, when? That's the only question you should have, is when does the upside volatility come into the stock? We've seen the downside volatility, that's for sure. When does that upside volatility come? That's when I think your cost of borrow fees really do start to jump and things start to look a lot better for AMC, a lot more spicy for AMC shareholders. Now, if you look at the MACD is not positive on the overall MACD. You're still way negative, but in the short term you have seen this yellow line go above the blue line. That is short-term positive, showing some form of short-term momentum here. So that is good, even though it's not really playing along with the share price of AMC. Really makes you scratch your head on why the MACD is doing this, but I'll take a bullish indicator over a bearish one any day. And again, the kind of longer term MACD right here is bearish. You're under this neutral line right here where my cursor is. I guess I should put it like right here. But you're in the short term above that blue line with the yellow line. So that is short term bullish. Now the RSI is 26.23 under 30. You're bearish. There's no other way to put it. That's a good position to be in if you're looking for a bounce. You don't want to be at these levels and be neutral on the RSI. No, you are severely oversold right now. So that's a better problem to have if you're buying the stock right here. It just means you could see a lot more upside from these levels. So with that out of the way, let's look at the Stonko tracker data. You got 7,600 calls currently in the money, 91,000 calls out the money, 26,000 puts in the money, and 163,000 puts that are out the money. I do think tomorrow is when you're going to see a lot more options either bought or sold on AMC, and I think you're going to see the option chain overall populate, because Fed Jerome Powell and what we're going to get tomorrow is going to be a major catalyst for our markets. Think about it like this. The summary of economic projections we get tomorrow is going to be the first real indication of what the Fed is expecting for 2024. Now, what we have seen kind of over the last 9 months or so in 2023 is the Fed for 2024 has been expecting GDP to fall. Back in March, the Fed expected GDP for 2024 at 1.2%. Now they expect it at 1.1%. Now that we're in September, do they lower that even more? It's kind of like the markets are forward-looking, but they're not that forward-looking. So when we're in March of 2023, the markets don't care as much about what the Fed says for 2024 because you still have so much time. People are still focused on 2023. Once you're at September of 2023, markets start to focus on 2024. So 2023 summary of economic projection numbers really don't matter unless you see a big change. So I wouldn't even take into consideration any of this unless you were to see the Fed funds rate projection shoot up big or shoot down big. That's really what I would expect. Inflation's not going to move. The unemployment rate likely to stay the same. The GDP estimates likely to stay the same. The real thing the markets are going to focus on is the GDP for 2024 as well as the federal funds rate. Now, this can tell you a lot about how the Fed is feeling about the economy, because if the Fed projects lower rates than they did before, back at the March summary of economic or June summary of economic projections, well, that probably means either inflation falls a lot or the economy is really bad. So two things that can be taken out of the federal funds rate if it does get revised lower. Again, I'll repeat, either inflation gets destroyed and falls back to target, or the economy is not doing well and the Fed has to cut rates. That's why the GDP expectations will be so important. So current GDP expectations from the Fed as of June for 2024 for the full year is 1.1%. Like I said, they've been falling. Now, does the Fed actually raise their estimates for GDP, or do they lower their estimates for GDP? If they lower their estimates for GDP by a big margin, and they lower the Fed funds rate projected kind of terminal rate for 2024, that's where you have a recession problem. If the Fed raises estimates for GDP and lowers the federal funds rate projections, that's where you get a massive rally for the markets. So really just these two things is what's going to cause a huge move up or down. That's what you need to know. And that is key if you're trading this market. So there is that. Now, as far as this news I wanted to share with you, a little bit of poetic justice, if you will. AMC's post-Apes stock crash reduces attorney fees to $5.7 million. Lawyers who negotiated the Ape deal had asked for $20 million. Stock conversion led AMC shares to crater by about 85%. Lawyers will take home $5.7 million, not the $20 million they had sought after the company's shares crashed following the conversion. A Delaware judge, Vice Chancellor Morgan T. Zern, handed the shareholder attorneys the seven-figure payout Monday, 5 weeks after she signed off on the deal that ended the bitter court fight between the movie theater chain's leaders and its investors, including thousands of meme stock traders who powered the rally that spared AMC from a pandemic-era bankruptcy. AMC shares have cratered roughly 85% since the settlement was approved August 11th, closing at $8.36 on September 15th. The company said September 14th that it had sold 40 million shares for $325.5 million after announcing September 5th that it planned to sell 390 million shares worth about $3.4 billion at the time. Court followed 3 days after the judge handed $213,000 to counsel for Rose Izzo, the retail investor whose settlement objections played a role in delaying the stock conversion by 3 weeks. Zern initially rejected an earlier version of the PAC July 21st, sending the common stock soaring and the AMC preferred equity units, or Apes, plunging. You just gotta laugh at this. They wanted a $20 million payout for causing AMC stock to drop 85%. I mean, they still got $5.7 million, but I mean, quite a bit of that probably went to lawyer fees and other court-related documents and their team of lawyers. So wasn't quite the payout that they were hoping for. So we'll see. We'll see if we ultimately get numbers on how much this court proceeding costed. But $20 million, you were looking at quite a big profit. $5.7 million, probably not as much so. So there is all of that, guys. That is basically what we have for you. Again, markets are pretty red today. Everything is down about 0.5%. Not a great day out there. Not a terrible day, just considering tomorrow is the Fed and there's massive implications and the markets could move quite a lot. So I will keep you guys up to date on what I'm kind of expecting heading into the end of the day and even overnight tonight. If we do get any news or anything that happens, keep in mind September seasonally tends to be a very weak period for our markets. So, and coincidentally enough, if you get bad news, it usually tends to happen in September. So we'll keep you guys posted if anything does change. That is it for right about now. You do want to watch the Fed funds rate monitor tool. That's going to be something that really does move around a lot heading into the end of the day today, the beginning of tomorrow, and heading into Fed Jerome Powell tomorrow. The Fed will be at 2 p.m. You'll get the summary of economic projections and the dot plot. And then at 2:30, you're going to get Fed Jerome Powell getting up on the podium and giving us a speech. Now, long story short, anything that changes a lot is going to be good or really bad. So that's going to do it for this video. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and source your comments, questions, or concerns down below in the comment section. If you guys want to come trade with me live in real time, link down below in the description. You guys enjoy the rest of your day, and I will see you in the next one.